What happened while we were away brought to you by Leftist chickens coming home to roost. Horrible wildfires continued to rage in Los Angeles County yesterday. At least 5 people have died as several wind-driven fires blazing across Los Angeles County remain mostly uncontained. The newest to break out is the Sunset Fire in the Hollywood Hills, where evacuation orders have been issued. The Palisades fire that is scorching the seaside area between Malibu and Santa Monica has exploded to more than 17,000 acres with zero containment. It's destroyed at least 1,000 structures, making it the most destructive ever in Los Angeles County. Tens of thousands are now displaced, with many more thousands of businesses and structures threatened. That horror and destruction is, of course, lost on Democrats, who had themselves a day yesterday, starting with California Governor Gavin Newsom, literally surrounded by flaming destruction, who had this to say.
Firefighter in this block, they left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out.
Joe Biden wants you to know what he's prioritizing, speaking in Santa Monica.
The good news is, I'm a great-grandfather.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass was caught by Sky News on her way back from Ghana.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up, please? Appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
She wasn't done yet.
Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL.
A URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator, also known as a web address. She was supposed to read a website for support and resources for LA residents, but instead just said URL. Listen to this local TV station in LA where an anchor tried to fact-check a local businessman before the anchor himself was fact-checked by his own reporter.
Former LA mayoral candidate and real estate developer Rick Caruso criticizing the city's response to the windstorm and fires.
You got to have water, and my understanding is the reservoir was not refilled in time and in a timely manner to keep the hydrants going.
Despite what you have heard from Caruso, no firefighters have told us that they are running out of water.
And let's go out to Gigi Graciette. She is live in Pacific Palisades. I know your signal's not the best, but Gigi, what can you tell us?
Well, firefighters have told me they have no water on this block.
Of course, the typical leftist barrage of opining about climate change hit social media and elsewhere. I'm sure global warming explains why LAFD was forced at one point, seen here, to use a women's purse to carry water to extinguish one fire. Donald Trump yesterday called for the resignation of California Governor Newsom. Here he is nearly 7 years ago in the aftermath of another major California forest fire, calling for change in the way California pursues forest management.
It's cleaned out and protected. You got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem.
Speaking of Donald Trump, here he is this morning at the funeral for former President Jimmy Carter, talking to and making Barack Obama laugh. Here's when Kamala Harris sat down in front of Trump. What is going through her mind? Wrong answers only. Joe Rogan welcomed historian and Christian apologist Wesley Huff on his Joe Rogan Experience podcast this week. That's the largest podcast in the world, with roughly 14 million listeners each episode. The two spent hours discussing the person and work of Jesus Christ, but towards the end, the conversation went deeper when Huff mentioned Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson and whether Jesus Christ is merely an archetype of morality.
I have this love-hate relationship with all of Peterson's stuff because he seems to get so much right where he walks up to the line, but he doesn't want to cross over.
And is the crossover, you think, connected to a life in academia? Or
no.
What do you think it is?
I wonder, and I'd love to talk to him about this, like how do you remedy this issue that, because he seems to think that the concept of Jesus as an example is more important than the actual flesh and blood first century itinerant Jewish preacher who was crucified and rose from the dead physically, which is the claim of the Gospels and the rest of the New Testament. That's an example for us to look on and live by. But I actually think that Jesus condemns moralism. And ultimately what I see Peterson doing is looking at Jesus as a moral example. And if Jesus is nothing but a moral example, then you can save yourself and you don't actually need a savior. And so I think actually Jesus would have critiqued that because Jesus was very against moralism.
And finally, this.
Say that again?
Why is there a fire happening right now?
There are multiple fires that are taking place.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in the news though. You're supposed to know.
Well, I don't know how it started. We don't know how it started. There,
I think
winds.
it's all the gay people in LA.
Okay, there we go. Okay. And that's what happened while we were away.